Hi, Cam here from AskMeI'mBipolar.com, and today I'm going to be answering the question, how does bipolar affect your sex life? Okay, wow, well, this is going to be an interesting one. I think firstly, the most obvious thing you'll notice is that your sex drive is influenced by your episodes. In a depressive episode, for me personally, I have no sex drive. There is literally nothing anyone can do that will turn me on. I have zero interest in sex. When I'm depressed, I'm constantly exhausted, and as I've said before in other videos, it feels like I'm trying to move through really sticky treacle. It's really hard if you're in a relationship with someone because if you have no interest in sex, then the other person can sometimes think that you don't love them anymore or you don't find them attractive anymore, and that is not the case at all. It's usually just a case of you're depressed, you're exhausted, you can't think, your negative loop in your head is telling you 100 million terrible things about yourself. You have no self-esteem, you don't want to be naked, you don't want sex. You physically can't do it. There's no easy way to tell someone that you just literally don't have the energy for sex right now. But you have to be completely open and honest with the person that you're with, and you need to tell them and try and explain what the depression is like for you. On the flip side, in mania or hypermania, it's really common to have a really high sex drive, and sometimes what's called hypersexuality. Hypersexuality is defined as increased sexual urges and increased sexual activity, which I think is a really loose term. It used to be called nymphomania, and hypersexuality is what's called sex addiction. Most commonly with this side effect, people engage in a lot more sexual activity than they usually would. They do things sexually that they wouldn't normally do, like perhaps sleep with multiple people, and in extreme cases, it has been known that people have cheated on their partners. My personal experience of hypersexuality is really mild. I do notice an increased sex drive, by all means, but it's something that I can completely control, and I've never cheated on anybody, and never would. For me, I do find that I think about sex more. I think about sex with people that I wouldn't normally think about sex with, or I think about doing sexual things that I wouldn't normally think about. I can usually tell when I have hypersexuality because for me personally, it's not normal. I'm not normally thinking about sex all day. I have a relatively low sex drive as a person in general, so I notice hypersexuality very quickly. I can manage it and control it, and it doesn't last very long at all. You have to be careful if you're in a relationship though, because your actions can hurt the other person and you can become, let's say, demanding. If you're experiencing hypersexuality, for example, you don't want to be commenting on other people or talking about sexual acts constantly because you have to think about how it makes the person that you're with feel. They might feel suddenly like they're inadequate, like they can't satisfy you, like they're not good enough, like you're looking at other people and they're not as attractive as they used to be. It's hard to remember when you're in that mania or hypermania, but it's just something to bear in mind if you can. I class myself as quite lucky because I do only get really mild hypersexuality. But this is something that can literally ruin people's lives, ruin relationships, ruin marriages. Hypersexuality can have a significant effect on your mood. If you're hypersexual, you can become frustrated. If you're frustrated, you get more irritable. You're already going to be irritable because you're already hypermanic or manic, so it's just going to increase the problem. The last thing that I want to mention, if we're talking about bipolar and sex, is medication. People don't often think about the effects of medication on their sex life. For me personally, I take quetiapine. Quetiapine is what's known as a dopamine antagonist, which means that it stops my dopamine levels rising too high. An orgasm is essentially a spike in dopamine, so I'm taking something that's stopping me do that. I mean, granted, it stops me from becoming manic also, but it's not really a side effect that I wanted. When I was on 300 milligrams, it was literally impossible to orgasm. However, I'm on 100 milligrams at the moment, and I'd say now it's infrequent as opposed to impossible. Still not great, but But to be fair, I'd rather take my medication and be stable and happy. It's just not the best side effect in the world. So yeah, bipolar definitely affects my sex life, My medication mostly, because it affects it all the time, but otherwise it's only when you're in an episode. What's your experience of mental health and sex? Write your story in the comments below so I can read it. Also, go check out the website at www.askmeimbipolar.com and give us a follow and a like on Facebook and Twitter. If you have any questions for me, then let me know either via the website or on the social media sites, and I look forward to answering you.